The war in Ukraine breaks all limits and turns global peace into a countdown toward inevitable chaos. In the last 24 hours, the situation spiraled out of control. Attacks, espionage, and new sanctions have pushed the war in Ukraine to its most dangerous level since the Cold War. Tension is rising because modern weapons and covert operations blur the line between peacetime and wartime. On one side, espionage and sabotage are growing, with infiltrated agents, drone attacks, and attempts against leaders. On the other, Ukraine and its partners are stepping up offensives with new weapons, shortening the distance to a direct clash between powers no one wants to fund now. Rival powers move in silence, spy on leaders, and prepare strikes that could trigger a worldwide collapse instantly. Military expansion and the exchange of threats between the Western Alliance, the United States, and Russia have set everything on alert. Sanctions and pressures are rising, European economies are staggering, and the war that began in Donbass is already affecting banks, streets, and borders, like a domino effect, showing no signs of truce anytime soon. The logic behind these movements is clear. Espionage drives decisions, attacks change battlefield tactics, and the economy feels every blow. Putting the pieces together, you can see a dangerous cycle forming, bringing the world closer to confrontations that recently seemed unlikely, one after another. Sanctions cripple European economies and push the world closer to a direct clash between Russia, the United States, and NATO. Will all the leaders involved in this war survive until the end of the fighting, whether through a peace agreement or the destruction of one side? Or do you think there's a chance someone could be eliminated? And whose elimination, in your opinion, would give peace a better chance? Speak freely. There's no censorship here. Just a reminder, this report is based on news from Sky News, The New York Times, BBC, The Guardian, Al Jazeera, Sputnik, RT News, and Telegram. But before we get into the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription means a lot and helps you stay updated on every story about the raging nations. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up to help this project grow even more. Ukraine's intelligence unit claims to have destroyed another Putin base known as Rubicon, used for long-range attacks. The operation, described as surgical, exposed security flaws in Moscow and triggered alerts among Russian forces, which responded by reinforcing defenses, including those of the Russian president, as Ukrainian spies closed in. Kyiv's command says the mission involved specialists in electronic reconnaissance and first-person drones. The strike shook Russian lines and proved that the invisible war of information weighs as much as tanks. Whoever masters sensors, jamming, data, and real-time coordination sets the pace. This kind of action isn't new. In 2017, North Korea accused the CIA and South Korea's intelligence service of planning to kill Kim Jong-un with biochemical weapons. The message is simple and disturbing. Even in peacetime, clandestine operations remain active with dangerous networks and intermediaries. History also weighs heavily. In July 1944, Klaus von Stauffenberg tried to kill Adolf Hitler with a bomb at Wolf's Lair. The failure cost lives and showed how the fight against authoritarian regimes also happens through discreet and risky actions behind the scenes. In May 2024, Kyiv said it foiled a Russian plan to kill Zelensky and other leaders. 2 colonels were arrested for collaborating with the FSB. The alert level rose, and the next sequence shows how these infiltrations connect to investigations in Poland with regional effects. Espionage and attacks push governments into desperate choices that threaten to turn pressure into full-scale war. A year later, Poland confirmed that a local citizen had helped Russian agents prepare an attack on Zelensky at Rzeszów airport. The news exposed the scale of Moscow's espionage network, which manages to operate even inside Western alliance countries without being detected. Since 2023, the Kremlin has faced increasingly bold drone attacks. In May 2025, a helicopter from Putin's convoy was nearly hit in Kursk, sparking panic in Moscow. The Russian government responded by expanding defenses and strengthening border radars. In Norway right now, a Russian bishop tried to build a church in an area monitored by the Western Alliance, claiming it was a religious mission. Authorities saw it differently, an operation to expand Moscow's presence in Northern Europe. It was a reminder that political influence and faith mix in the silent war. In Warsaw, a Russian confessed to passing military and infrastructure information to the FSB. That forced Poland to review its security protocols. It became clear that the information war is not limited to drones or tanks. It's a battle over data, access, and manipulation that crosses borders. While spies keep infiltrating and trying to deliver a precise checkmate, North Korea sent another 5,000 soldiers to Russia. Officially, it's civil cooperation, but experts see it as disguised logistical support. This partnership strengthens the link between sanctioned regimes and directly challenges the Western blockade. Kyiv hits back with surgical strikes, proving that technology now decides who controls the battlefield. The front line heated up again in the last 24 hours. A Russian missile struck a ceremony honoring elite Ukrainian soldiers, killing and injuring dozens. Kyiv called the attack cowardly and calculated, a sign that Moscow is targeting symbols, not just military positions. The missile was launched from Russian territory and exploded seconds after the ceremony began. The footage shows total destruction, with craters and debris everywhere. Investigators report the use of high-impact warheads designed to bring down structures and spread panic among troops and civilians. In Dobropilya, another Russian missile hit a residential building and left several injured. Residents said they heard drones before the explosion, suggesting prior aerial reconnaissance. The case became a new focus of international criticism against the Kremlin, accused of intentionally targeting civilians. At the same time, Ukrainian drones struck a petrochemical plant in Russia, sparking massive fires. Analysts say the goal was to cut fuel supplies for Russian troops. The fire lasted for hours and forced Moscow to deploy emergency units, a direct logistical impact attack. Ukrainian forces also blew up a military pipeline used to supply troops near the Russian capital. The explosions paralyzed fuel flow and left the Russian army without a quick response. And now comes the stage where the war changes scale. The world is beginning to feel its weight. Failed assassinations against Zelensky reveal a spy network reaching NATO borders and shaking Europe's stability. Ukraine's electrical system remains one of Russia's main targets. Zelensky said that nearly half of the infrastructure has been damaged. Moscow uses Shahed drones made in Iran, showing how dependent it is on other countries to sustain its attacks despite ongoing sanctions. In response, Kyiv launched its own drones with locally assembled warheads, capable of flying over 1,000 kilometers. These aircraft have changed the rules of the game, turning the conflict into a modern war laboratory where both sides test new equipment without restraint. The precision of Ukrainian strikes has been destroying industrial centers inside Russia. Moscow accuses the West of providing real-time technology and intelligence which, if true, would amount to direct intervention by the Western alliance. The risk of escalation has never been clearer. Russia's response has been brutal. Putin's forces have intensified attacks on civilians to break Ukrainian morale. Explosions in schools, hospitals, and entire neighborhoods have become routine. Observers say it's the cruelest period since the invasion began, with no signs of retreat. The military situation is becoming increasingly unbalanced. Even without full airspace control, Ukraine shows strength by hitting targets inside Russia. This is the point where new weapons and alliances enter, transforming the conflict into something that surpasses all regional boundaries. Poland uncovers Russian infiltration inside its own defense, proving no border is truly safe anymore. Ukraine has begun operating Patriot defense systems sent by the United States. These batteries intercept ballistic missiles over 150 kilometers away and are already active near Kyiv and Kharkiv. The country finally has a way to stop part of the attacks that had been devastating its cities. The Patriots reach speeds above Mach 5 and are considered a game changer against Kinjal and Iskander missiles. The Ukrainian government said the first interceptions were successful and that the integration between radars and fighter jets has finally reached the level expected by allies. Zelensky asked Trump to remain open to sending long-range weapons. The American president responded that the issue is under review but depends on internal political stability. This deadlock shows how decisions made in Washington can define the course of the war in Eastern Europe. Today, the long-range war has already turned Russia's interior into a new battlefield. Ukrainian drones and missiles are hitting refineries and railways, crippling Moscow's logistics. This changes everything, because now not even the Russian rear is safe. The conflict has become a borderless game. Ukrainian commandos are also operating within occupied zones, including helicopter attacks in Pokrovsk. These secret operations are shaping a new phase of the war. In the next stages, the story takes on a global scale, as the Western Alliance and the United States fully step into the scene. Russia steps up civilian attacks, deepening despair across destroyed cities that symbolize war's human cost. Western Alliance Marines resumed amphibious operations training under extreme conditions, simulating landings in frozen regions. The United Kingdom, United States, and Norway participated side by side, testing encrypted communication and troop coordination. The maneuvers made it clear the alliance is preparing for something bigger. Turkey, a key player within the Western Alliance, has become a major supplier to the Baltic. It is sending drones, armored vehicles, and defense systems to Estonia and its neighbors, strengthening the eastern flank. Ankara is using the war to expand its military market and influence, balancing politics and the business of war. Military sources confirm that Turkish Bayraktar drones now come equipped with thermal sensors and smart munitions already used in Baltic patrols. This modernization has increased surveillance along Russia's borders and reduced the gaps that could be exploited by surprise attacks. Observers say the conflict is no longer regional, it is now global, with new alliances emerging every week. The number of Western weapons circulating on battlefields reinforces the idea that we are already living through a silent world war, one that no one dares to admit aloud. Each new shipment of weapons brings the powers closer to direct confrontation. The war has already gone beyond Ukrainian territory and turned into a global-scale struggle. And most frighteningly, every step seems inevitable. Next comes the US military repositioning, which changes the entire board. The United States and NATO go on full alert as war spreads across continents with no control. The United States' decision to reduce troops in Romania sparked debate. The Pentagon insists it's merely a force redistribution, sending part of them to the Mediterranean and the Arctic. The focus would be containing Russia and China simultaneously. A power move, not a retreat, as some have interpreted. Analysts support this view. It's not a withdrawal, it's a repositioning. The Western Alliance is strengthening radar and integrated systems, while European countries heavily invest in defense. Romania continues to host anti-air batteries and medium-range missiles, keeping the region at the same readiness level. In London, the British government reacted after Trump accused Putin of testing secret nuclear weapons. The United Kingdom responded harshly. If the nuclear test ban treaty is violated, there will be a coordinated retaliation with the Western Alliance and the European Union. Naturally, tension rose even higher across the continent. Despite steady support, Ukraine is still far from formally joining the Western Alliance. Secretary General Mark Rutte was clear. The priority now is to maintain military support without triggering direct confrontation. It's a delicate balance between helping Kyiv and avoiding dragging the entire alliance into war. Meanwhile, European leaders are pressuring Washington to maintain arms shipments and sanctions against Moscow. The Western alliance is divided between acting cautiously or tightening the blockade. The political scene is becoming more complex, with new secret agreements and internal disputes among allies. Spy drones over nuclear bases expose vulnerabilities that push Europe toward the edge of collapse. Behind the scenes, Western alliance generals are concerned about the new missile deal between Russia and Belarus. The treaty allows the placement of tactical nuclear warheads near the European border. The alliance has urged Trump to take preventive measures before this threat becomes a real problem. The American representative to the Western alliance suggested that Zelensky seek a diplomatic solution before the war spirals out of control. In Kyiv, the proposal was immediately rejected. For Ukrainians, any ceasefire without Russian troop withdrawal would be the same as legitimizing the invasion and losing territory. Emergency meetings in Brussels discussed reinforcing interception bases in the Baltics. Satellites detected suspicious flights over Poland and Estonia, prompting the activation of fighter jets on constant alert. Each passing day increases the risk of a mistake that could trigger something much bigger. Belgian authorities confirmed that drones flew over a base housing American nuclear weapons. The aircraft had no civil registration and raised suspicions of espionage. The incident reignited debate about the vulnerability of Western alliance defenses and fears that someone may be testing their limits. Internal alliance documents show that cyber attacks have increased by 50% since September. Western forces are rushing to strengthen firewalls and security networks to contain an invisible enemy. Digital warfare has become the new trench, and few are truly prepared. The power struggle now involves banks, energy, and data. The whole world is a hidden battlefield. The Prime Minister of Albania tried to calm tensions by saying Russia would not attack another European country. But his words divided opinions. Many leaders consider such optimism dangerous, especially after recent bombings showing that Moscow still dictates the pace of military escalation. Donald Trump again pressured Western alliance countries to stop buying Russian oil. According to him, every financed barrel is another missile against the West. Washington wants to force Europe to cut this dependency once and for all, which would have a direct impact on economies and energy prices. Diplomats in Kyiv say US involvement depends on Trump's inner circle, which is divided between maintaining military support and cutting costs. This political instability in Washington worries allies. Any change there could redefine the entire war here. Trump responded to Putin's recent comments by calling his statements nonsense. He warned that any attack on a Western alliance country would receive a full response. The exchange of provocations between the two leaders heightened tensions and made it clear that the risk of strategic error has never been higher. The European Union released its report on Ukraine's accession, praising political progress and anti-corruption reforms. But along with recognition came a cost. The prolonged war is pushing the European economy toward a collapse that few dare to admit publicly. The war has completely brought down the European economy. Germany, once a model of stability, now has the worst performance among major powers. Expensive energy, high inflation, and factory closures are driving investments abroad. Even allies are beginning to admit the continent is in decline. The German collapse has spread throughout the Eurozone. Recent reports call it Europe's frightening economy, with zero growth and a real risk of recession. Paralyzed industries, falling exports, and total uncertainty about energy create a scenario that keeps even optimists on high alert. Economists highlight another critical issue: Germany's dependence on Chinese rare earths. These minerals are vital for chips and modern weapons. If Beijing decides to limit exports, European factories could shut down within weeks. The war has exposed how much the West still depends on the East. Meanwhile, the debts of the major G7 powers have exploded. France and Italy now owe more than Ukraine itself, and the United Kingdom is facing a fiscal crisis not seen in decades. The IMF warns the global financial system is unbalanced, and a single political mistake could bring everything down. The most serious case is the United Kingdom. Its debt is growing faster than any other developed countries, interest rates are at their limit, and recession seems inevitable. The message is clear. This war doesn't just destroy cities, it destroys entire economies and may take global stability down with it. With so many attacks, espionage operations, and economic collapses, the conflict has stopped being about territory and become a global power struggle. What began as an invasion has turned into a war between systems, banks, and technology, where information and energy are as valuable as tanks and missiles. The invisible war has become as dangerous as the one fought in the trenches. Assassination attempts, sabotage, and drone attacks show that no one is safe. Intelligence services have become weapons, and any failure can cause an entire nation to collapse within hours. Cities like Pokrovsk and Kharkiv continue to withstand daily bombings. Russia launches hypersonic missiles, and Ukraine responds with increasingly precise drones. This constant exchange of attacks is pushing the powers toward a direct confrontation that no one seems able to prevent. The Western alliance tries to balance military power and diplomacy, but internal divisions are weakening the bloc. Meanwhile, the economic crisis is spreading, inflation is soaring, and debt is increasing. The war has become a test of not only military but also moral endurance, and the West shows signs of fatigue. No one knows who will survive this war, or if peace will still exist after it ends. Will all the leaders involved in this war survive until the end of the fighting, whether through peace or the destruction of one side? Or do you think there's a chance someone will be eliminated? And whose elimination would, in your opinion, bring a better chance for peace? Speak freely. There's no censorship here. Thanks so much for sticking around until the end of the video. You're awesome, and I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any updates on the raging nations. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up to help this project grow even more.